My name is Jessica. I'm 27. After graduating from vocational school, I worked in medical administration. It was a busy but pleasant workplace, and I felt fulfilled. I quit when I got married. My husband, John, wanted me to focus on our home.
Please look after my mother. I'm begging you, please.
To care for your mother? Understood. I'll do my best. I'm not the type to stick to a career. I had no doubts about going where I was asked to go, as I was asked. I met John through my friend, and we got married after a year of dating. At the time, he had already lost his father to illness and was living with his mother.
This will be a big help. My mother's bedridden, you know. I worry about her being all alone.
It's understandable. We can't leave your mother alone. I was told that his mother had fallen ill shortly after his father's passing. Since then, she hadn't been active, and John took care of most of the housework. My mother-in-law warmly welcomed me. Let John handle the outside work, and please take over the house for me. Yes, mother-in-law, I look forward to working with you. I had no complaints about my relationship with my mother-in-law. After all, she was bedridden with illness. I was in a dominant position and had control over everything. The problem was my relationship with John. As soon as we got married and settled into family life, he became distant. Hey, how about we go for a drive on our next day off? Your mother seems to be doing well, and I think half a day won't be a problem.
Sorry, I'm tired. I want to rest properly that day.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. John began to show signs of being bothered by our interactions. I initially thought it was due to his busy work, so I didn't worry too much. But as the days went on, he began to avoid me more. Our nightly activities were no exception. Even when I thought it was the right day and prepared, I was often turned down. Please be a bit more cooperative. I want to have a child as soon as possible.
I understand how you feel. I want that too. But sorry, let's try next time.
With 30 on the horizon, I was, honestly, feeling rushed. I was also being urged by my mother-in-law, who wanted to see her grandchild. It was hard not to be able to fulfill her wishes. And then, while we were unable to give her a grandchild, mother-in-law passed away. From that point, John's attitude towards me became colder and colder. Welcome home! I made your favorite cream stew for dinner. John? John? Hey, you listening? Oh, want to take your bath first? Got it. I'll be waiting. John had become almost silent at home. No matter how much I tried to engage him in conversation, it was hopeless. He completely ignored me. I thought it was probably due to the shock of losing his mother. I naturally thought that way. Until John recovers from this emotional damage, I decided to support him, right by his side as his wife. However, it seemed that no matter how many days passed, John was uninterested in me. John, how have you been feeling recently? Are you sleeping well? I want to discuss something about our child. I'm thinking about getting a fertility test. What do you think? Hey, John. His health, his feelings, our child, our future. I tried to engage John's interest by changing the topic in various ways. But sadly, every attempt ended in failure. John, please say something. Have I done something to upset you? If there's something you don't like or want me to change, please tell me, John. Despite my earnest pleas, John didn't lend an ear. His ignoring me continued for a whole month. My husband was inexplicably cold. Desperate, I sought advice from my old friend, Claire. Claire works for a cosmetics company. She's good at her job and has many friends. Whether it's about studies, love, or personal worries, I always seek Claire's opinion whenever I face a problem. Upon hearing my story in detail, Claire solemnly nodded. That's unusual. A couple in the third year of marriage living in the same house, and the husband ignores the wife? That's not normal. You haven't done anything wrong, have you, Jessica? No, I haven't. That's why I don't understand why he's become so cold. Feeling utterly distressed, Claire had promised to help me fully. I had no idea, but it seemed that Claire had picked up on something. It's his fault if you've done nothing wrong, Jessica. He must be hiding something shady. Let's verify it. Eavesdropping, surveillance, tailing. We'll use all possible means. Is it okay to do something like that? I asked nervously. Absolutely. It's worse to ignore your spouse and keep secrets when you're married. Later, at Claire's suggestion, I installed small eavesdropping devices and cameras in our home. I felt guilty, but my desire to know his secret was much stronger. Of course, John continued to ignore me all this time. John? Hey, are you listening? It was a few days later. My phone rang. It was a call from John. Hello?
Where the hell are you? What are you trying to pull? Leaving the house for a week.
Why don't you ask yourself why I'm doing this?
What are you talking about? Speak clearly. I don't understand.
Huh? You haven't noticed? You don't know why I'm so angry? How dare he say speak clearly? He's been ignoring me all this time. Having been prompted by Claire to investigate John, I discovered a shocking truth. Unable to contain my rage at what I'd found out, I left our home. I took refuge at Claire's house. It was on the 7th day of my stay there that I finally received a call from John.
If you have something to say to me, then you should say it to my face, loud and clear.
He suggested. Fine by me, as long as you promise not to ignore what I have to say. The anger I felt the moment I discovered the results of my investigation still burns in my chest. The weight of his sins trampling on my dedication is heavy. John has to face a fitting punishment for his actions. I set a date and location, ending the call swiftly before he could respond. Later, I invited John to a table in a local cafe. He must have slipped out during work, as he was in a business suit. There was no need for any beating around the bush. I laid out the evidence I had collected so far on the table.
What is this? Hey, wait! Stop it, Jessica! Don't lay out these things!
He protested. If you don't like it, why don't you pick them up yourself? It doesn't matter, right? I can print out as many as I want.
When did you take these photos?
What I had laid out on the table were incriminating photos. They were all shots of John with his mistress, walking in the downtown area with arms folded, scenes of them entering a hotel together, and the woman in all the photos was the same person. Her name was Mary, as I had found out during my investigation. I also have audio data. Would you like to listen to it right here? I asked.
Audio?
He responded, shocked. I tapped the screen of my smartphone. Immediately, a conversation between John and Mary started streaming. Hey, John, when is our housemaid planning on leaving?
She'll be gone soon. She's losing her patience and will probably suggest a divorce. I wish she would just blow up at us saying, "Stop ignoring me." That would be the easiest for me.
This is such a long-term scheme. Well, That's just like you, John, isn't it? When I cut off the audio, John seemed frustrated, as if he thought we were eavesdropping. I wondered what kind of look he was giving to his own wife. John, who was caught red-handed cheating, seemed on the verge of lashing out at any moment. John, you needed someone to take care of your mother, right? That's why you married me. Now that your mother has passed away, I'm no longer needed. John's real intention was Mary all along. But Mary had no intention of taking care of her mother-in-law, and so I, who had no objections to caregiving, was chosen for the role. If someone could just take on this bothersome duty, I guess he didn't care who it was. After his mother passed away, the housemaid was no longer needed. The plan to make life unpleasant and trigger a divorce. What a petty, mean, and unreasonable way to behave. It's disrespecting the sanctity of marriage. The only saving grace is that you and I have no children.
Children, huh? About children.
You knew, didn't you? You never planned on having them because you knew we would separate. If we did have children, he would have to pay child support after the divorce. John had no doubt planned all of this. Upon my pointing this out, John let out a heavy sigh.
Most of what you say is true. I married you intending to leave you from the start.
You're the worst. What do you think my life is?
My bad. That said, it does save me a lot of trouble. Let's get divorced.
Of course. But after I finish speaking with someone else.
Someone else? You can't mean...
2 women arrived just in time saying, "Sorry to keep you waiting." What? John? So that means you're the housemaid? I'm not a housemaid. I'm his wife. For now, anyway. Thank you, Claire. You're welcome. What? I thought you were looking for new cosmetics to review. I'm sorry, that was a lie. What I was actually looking for was my best friend's husband's mistress, in other words, you. Claire seated Mary next to John. I showed her the same evidence photos of the affair as before. Mary's reaction was like that of a child caught red-handed in mischief. She didn't seem to quite grasp the severity of the situation. Well, it didn't matter. Whatever her attitude, what I needed to do remained the same. I'm going to demand compensation from both of you. What? What are you saying? Why should I have to pay compensation? I've done nothing wrong. Have I done something to trouble you? Do you really mean that? I've confirmed that Mary herself is married. Does she not find it troubling that her own husband is involved with another woman? She is the daughter of a wealthy family, but she seems completely detached from reality. You were aware that John was married when you entered into a relationship with him, correct? Well, yes, but That's already over the line. Adultery. That's why you're being demanded compensation. Do you understand? I've been greatly inconvenienced by your relationship with John. I was there first. I was with John before you got married. Seems so. You were in a relationship with John before he and I got married. But it doesn't matter who was first. You committed adultery. That's enough. Whether she didn't understand or didn't want to, persuading Mary was a chore. Eventually, she slumped onto the table crying. She kept wailing that her dad would definitely scold her. I wonder if she means her husband. I thought of informing her that I'd be sending a certified letter in the near future, but decided against it. I'd have to start by explaining what a certified letter was. While I was interacting with Mary, John remained silent with a solemn look on his face. John, sign these 2 documents. They're the divorce agreement and divorce petition.
$30,000 for compensation? Isn't that too much?
Hey, don't go judging the extent of my mental distress, all right? At my words, John closed his mouth for good. All that could be heard in the restaurant after that was Mary's sniffling sobs. Later, my divorce from John went through without any problems. I was able to confirm that the compensation and asset distribution were transferred into the specified bank account in one lump sum. I decided to use that money to move into a slightly more expensive apartment. A fresh start in life, at last. It was a luxury I afforded myself to stir up my spirits. Apparently, John had to sell his childhood home to pay the compensation money. It's a pitiful thing that after paying the necessary amount, his money was pretty much down to zero. Though it couldn't be helped since the $30,000 he paid me wasn't the only thing he had to settle. Seems like John's going to end up paying well over $100,000, doesn't it? It seems that way. After all, he's been hit with a damages claim from his company. The wife of an executive at one of John's company's crucial clients. That was Mary. The executive, unaware of the situation, was reportedly enraged after reading the certified mail I sent. I sent pictures as evidence, so Mary had no way to deny it. Moreover, Mary was helping John by leaking her husband's company information. This affair and the ensuing fraudulent act created a major issue between the two companies. John seems to have lost his place. He's not only been given the cold shoulder by his superiors and colleagues, but also been fired and slapped with a huge amount of damages. One of them explained, "Poor guy, though he brought it upon himself. Do you think he'll be repaying this debt for the rest of his life?" In all honesty, that's what I believe will happen. John's future looks bleak. He's probably racking his brains right now because of the overwhelming cost of his affair. Later on, it appears John had a hard time finding another job. He gave up on full-time employment and was reduced to making ends meet through odd jobs. There are also rumors that the managing director was working behind the scenes to prevent John from getting a new job. However, the truth of this matter is uncertain, and it's doubtful anyone would gain anything by trying to confirm it. John, who had also gone through a divorce, reconnected with Mary, another divorcee, and they started to live together. But it seems that their living situation is not going well. After all, Mary is quite a spender. She really spends money like water. Picking in a warehouse, cleaning, moving jobs, checking automobile parts. The money John painstakingly saves up from these jobs, Mary can spend in an instant. All for the things she wants, like cosmetics, makeup, bags, and clothes. They can't seem to stop arguing about how to spend money. So despite the fact that they are not cheating on each other anymore, it seems that their relationship is strained. I heard this story directly from John himself over the phone. He came to me asking for financial assistance because life was tough. What did you do then? Of course I refused. I'm under no obligation to help them. Who would want to help those two? After all, they are the ones who used to call me a maid behind my back. Yeah, it doesn't matter what happens to them. After the divorce, I returned to my job in medical administration, and am working happily at my new workplace. I am so busy that my head is spinning, but that's what suits me best now. When I have free time, I inadvertently remember unpleasant things and feel gloomy. The other day, I encountered the embodiment of those unpleasant things. None other than John himself. It was on my way home from work. A lonely twilight road. He called out to me as I was hurrying home alone. I turned around and was speechless for a moment. His hair and beard had grown out. His skin was tanned. His cheeks were thin and sunken. His clothes were grubby and ragged. I was surprised and appalled at the sight of John, who had completely changed.
"Hey, long time no see."
Is that you, John? Are you okay? Are you managing to eat every day? I ended up asking questions like a guardian would. John's state, even to my eyes, which were supposed to despise him, appeared pitiful.
I'm getting by eating every day. Not 3 meals, though. Haha.
What about work?
Not getting much these days. I'm collecting empty cans and old magazines during the day. If I take them in bulk to a dealer, they buy it from me per pound.
After we talked a while, John hesitantly broached the main subject.
Listen, do you think we could try again?
What about Mary? I thought you two were living together.
I broke up with her. She dumped me. Mary's probably gone back to her parents' home by now. I bet she'll arrange a marriage and settle down with a suitable partner her parents pick.
John, who was talking about Mary, made a face as if he could. It must have been a painful breakup to the point where even speaking about it to me was hard. John's current state is truly pitiful. However, I have no hand to extend for him. I still remember the abuse I suffered, and it still infuriates me. Upon saying that, John lowered his head, agreeing with me.
I truly apologize for what I did back then.
I'm not going to say it's okay, but let's both move on. But don't approach me anymore. If you stalk me, I'll call the police.
I won't stalk you. I'm sorry for bothering you, so see you then.
John slowly left down the dusk-lit street. His figure retreating was pitiful and frustratingly pathetic. After that, I saw John a few times in line at the soup kitchen organized by a nonprofit organization. He had become so thin, and when he noticed me looking, he awkwardly turned his face away. I certainly don't want to end up like that. Every time I see John, I think that strongly. He is a negative example for me in life. This is how my first marriage ended disastrously. But I haven't given up on building a happy family with someone. There's still a long way to go in life. I believe that I can still shine from now on. Thinking that, I've decided to start participating in a local social event with my friend Claire. Being divorced doesn't mean I should feel intimidated. The world is vast. There must be a man who will embrace me gently.